Hey, good morning, all. Welcome to the Common Good podcast. It's Tuesday, Politics Day. Hey, do you ever have that feeling and you say it to people around you? Boy, this just feels like the longest day. I mean, I'm just having the longest day. Well, today you should really say that. Do you know why, Robb Ryerse?
Why is that, Doug Pagitt?
Because in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the longest daylight day of the year.
Whew.
My favorite day, summer solstice. The sun is out if you're living in Australia, you're on the other side of this thing, it's your shortest day. But for all of us, longest day. And I mismanaged my own personal schedule because normally on this day, what I do is start walking, running, or riding something when the sun comes up and do it till the sun goes down here in Minnesota, which is like, 5:30 in the morning till 9. I own a website called The Longest Day. I'm not kidding. I do a whole
fundraiser.
I have a whole fundraiser thing around it. And somehow I booked my day like without paying attention. So I don't know. Apparently I'm taking the day off from my longest day
I had
activity.
no idea that you were like a summer solstice guy.
Oh boy, worship that sky. So it's not going to be the longest day, for walking, running, or rolling, but it will be one of our longer days here of being on live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Twitter.
Yeah. Who's going to have a long day today?
Who's this?
Donald Trump is going to have
Donald
a long
J. Trump
day
is going to have a long day. Yeah. Yeah. I think, apparently he's also throwing his former lawyer under the proverbial congressional bus. So I'm pretty sure they're all going to be having long days, and we'll be watching that. So if you're watching now, stick with us. I mean, get a little exercise between the end of this conversation about 9 a.m. Central Time and join us back at noon Central Time. We'll be watching the hearings together. It's going to be a long day. Well, hey, not only is it a long day, it's a beautifully hot day here in Minnesota where I am outside of Minneapolis. It's like 98 degrees. It's got the Arkansas feel to it. How's it feeling over there in just outside of Fayetteville?
We're in the midst of a hot streak. It's in the 90s. It's in the 90s, and it's going to be in the 90s probably until around Halloween. So, you just hunker down and be hot. That's pretty much what we've got.
Well, I hope the sun is also out and it's a dry wind. All right. So excited about our conversation today with Nan Whaley. Nan is running for governor in Ohio. And Nan, we're super excited to see you again. Thanks for putting up with our weather chit chat. How are things looking there are you in Dayton, Ohio this morning, or where do you?
I am in Dayton. I was in Cleveland and Akron yesterday, which was a beautiful day, frankly. And it's getting a little warmer again here. We've been having some 90-degree days. That is uncommonly hot for June in Ohio. So my husband's back to be like opening the windows or shutting the windows every few days. So, but it's still sunny, and I love the summer solstice just like you, Doug. So great day.
Great. Well, we like talking about the weather around here at the start of our Tuesday chats because weather is one of those things that at least we can say we share that in common, right? There's days where you feel like, do we share anything else in common in our political or civic lives? But we do sit under the same sun and feel the same way. So it's a real coming together moment. And then we can just complain. Some people can say, I like it hot. Some people can say, I don't like it hot. And there we go. Now we're back to normal.
I know some people on my staff are really from California, so they really like the warm weather. Some of our staff's from Minnesota and Michigan, and they're not as crazy about the hot weather. They long for snow. So it's been interesting to watch difference in opinions even here on the Nan Whaley campaign.
Now, Nan, not only are you running for governor, which is fantastic. We need you to win. We're all realizing the reasons why our state governments matter beyond just the goodness that you'll do for your particular state, but because of the way that the United States of America has a united sense of our states, and they all chip in together on certain things, and governors play a significant role in that. But you've also been the mayor of Dayton, Ohio.
Yes, for 8 years, I was the mayor of Dayton until January of this year. I was also president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, which I'm really proud of. My colleagues from across the country chose me to lead them, coming out of COVID. And in that time, we worked to pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill, Democrat, Republican, and independent mayors coming together to get that done and support that effort. And then also the ARPA funding that helped, provide funding for cities, particularly for police and fire and other services that we were nervous about coming out of COVID. It's helped really keep cities solvent all across the United States. And so was proud to do both of those actions in coordination with mayors from across the country. I love mayors. It was a tough decision for me to decide to run for governor. Mayors, have to get it done. And you have to think and be visionary for your community about where your community wants to go over the next, 5, 10, 20 years. But at the same time, if you don't do a good job on the snow or don't fill that pothole, they'll push you right out. So you got to be on the ground and visionary at the same time. It's a really unique position.
When you were the president of the Council of Mayors, did people call you Madam President when you had meetings just to warm you up to that eventual reality that you will
the other mayors do that? It's like more, I think, of a teasing way, but they're so great.
But if you're going to take that mantle on later in life, you're going to have to get used to it. So it's probably good training ground. Hey, Nan, tell us, so you've worked hard, you've worked in city government. City government, in a lot of ways, is elected office, of course. You're elected to it, but it doesn't always feel the same way that other elected positions can feel to people. It's a work. They say sometimes in politics there's workhorses and show horses, and certainly being a mayor that's a working job. Then you decided to run for governor. Talk about that decision. What went into that for you? How did you decide to say, hey, I want to keep offering myself to public service, and this time in this role?
Well, I think for a couple of reasons. Number one, as working with mayors from across the state, we see cities, being forgotten and ignored by the state house. The state house has been called the most corrupt in the country by the FBI, and they're not really paying attention to the issues that are affecting the people that live in Dayton or Akron or even Findlay. They're making sure that their pockets are lined, and that affects the services that we get directly from our state. And so that was a big reason for me to run, is, making sure that people that have been forgotten and ignored actually have a real partner at the state house in the governor's office. And so that drove me into the race. Also, what I've seen in this governor, frankly, he's been in office since I was 10 months old. I'm 46 years old, bicentennial baby, is the fact that, he's gotten further and further ahead. His family's gotten further and further ahead. But really, the people of Ohio have gotten further behind. When Mike DeWine came into office, we were leading ahead of the American national wage. Now we're behind it. Our communities were growing. Now they're getting smaller. And I think that has a lot to do with the age of our politics, where people go to office, frankly, to get wealthy instead of really serve the public. And I think we need to have a new way forward in Ohio that puts the focus back on workers. Frankly, Mike DeWine has lost touch with what Ohio is about. And I think we need new leadership that really has been on the ground, has been, around, and is like most of the people in Ohio. And I think that's what we're offering here in this race.
Yeah. Nan, as we have, as a nation, been kind of absorbing again, tragically, more situations of gun violence and trying to wrap our brains around how this keeps happening and why there's been inaction on so many fronts. There's been, at the state level all across the country, a variety of different reactions to kind of the latest tragic gun violence. And some states have even, been loosening the gun laws in response to all of this, kind of under that fallacy of the good guy with a gun. What's the situation in Ohio? How have things been handled there? How are people reacting, and what are your thoughts about what needs to be done?
Well, Rob, this is a very personal issue for me. In August 4th of 2019, we experienced a mass shooting in Dayton while I was mayor,
Mm.
and 9 people were killed and 27 more were injured in the course of 32 seconds.
Mhm.
And we had good guys with guns that did save hundreds of people's lives, but still not fast enough in that 32 seconds to not see that many people die and be injured. And the next day, after we had this devastating shooting in a place where all of us came together as a community regularly, we had a vigil in that same spot, and Mike DeWine was there. And when he got up to speak, the people of Dayton shouted in frustration, "Do something." It was organic. It's one of the few times you really see something like that happen right now. And the next day, Mike DeWine called me and said that he was going to do something around common sense, gun safety, and deal with violence in our communities. And I stood with Mike DeWine, believed him. I believe in working to consensus as a way forward for our government. And what Mike DeWine has done since is actually make it worse. And never, frankly, in my worst nightmare did I think he was going to do that. He had signed Stand Your Ground, which made our communities less safe in January of 21. Just this past week, permitless concealed carry went into effect in Ohio, which makes our law enforcement less safe. And it's actually shown to increase officer-involved shootings anywhere from 10 to 15% in communities. And then finally, he decided to sign a bill that arms teachers, something both, again, law enforcement and teachers are against. Because with only 24 hours of training. Think about this. Your teacher in Ohio has to renew their license to teach needs 180 hours. But to have a gun around your child, 24 hours is all that's necessary now. And I think this is what we've seen over and over in this state is, number one, on this issue, Mike DeWine is too weak to stand up to the extremists. I think he knows these are terrible bills, but 9 people dead in Dayton aren't worth the political risk for him. He's too focused on keeping his power, and he's afraid of the gun makers and the gun lobbies and the extremists in his party rather than doing the right thing. And I've always had this attitude about this work is, in order to do the job, you have to be willing to lose the job. Like you have to do what's right and what you believe is right in your heart, and what is the best way forward. And Mike DeWine is a coward, and is not willing to do what is really necessary to protect Ohioans. And it's because, frankly, he's gotten the most money of any statewide elected from the gun lobby and gun makers. So, people's lives and the safety of our communities are no longer a priority. And I was there. I witnessed what the people of Dayton called for. I was there to hold my community together, and I'm proud of my community. It's a gritty, resilient, amazing community, but this is not what they asked for. And he has gone the absolute opposite way, and we deserve so much better to keep our communities safe.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. Well said.
Hey, Nan, it used to be, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that Ohio felt like it was the bellwether of sort of political attitude in the United States at the presidential level. If you couldn't win Ohio, you weren't going to win the presidency. That was true for a long time and ceased to be true. Felt like a purple kind of state. People would sort of move each direction. Some of us who've paid attention to national politics and want Republicans to speak out against Donald Trump have heard Governor DeWine do such a thing. And from afar, it can seem like, well, maybe they're coming to some common sense attitudes there in Ohio. Maybe it's shifting back to that. But what people like me see because someone's on a Sunday morning news program or something like that is not what you're seeing on the ground. Can you talk a little bit about that, the changing spirit of Ohio in the past and what you see happening right now, and where a character like Mike DeWine fits into that?
Yeah, I think you're right, Doug. I mean, Ohio is a common sense state, right? We like where the majority of the population generally is where Ohio is. But what we've seen over the past couple decades is it's also frustrated, right? We've seen millions of jobs lost across the country, but particularly in Ohio, because of for example, trade deals that have not put workers first, have put, regions like Ohio last and said, oh, they'll just figure it out. And we've seen the hollowing out of communities because of that. And, people are right to feel ignored because they have been ignored by, their government. And I think this is both state and nationally, frankly. And then when we look at someone like Mike DeWine, who is really, during this period of time, just been getting more and more extreme to hold on to his party, we see that the politics have gotten way out of line to what people in Ohio want. People in Ohio want a good paying job so they can provide for their family. They want to be able for their kids and grandkids to have the choice to live in the community where they grew up in, right? They want to have opportunity. And I don't think that's too much to ask for. I don't care if you're like in the inner city of Cleveland or if you're down in Marietta, Ohio on the river. That is the American dream and it's the Ohio dream. And it has gotten out of reach for people over the past couple decades because we've had self-serving politicians and self-serving politics that hasn't paid attention to the worker. Ohio has this dignity of work. Our senator, I think the greatest senator in the country, Sherrod Brown, talks about this.
Yeah.
This idea that, if you have one job, it should be enough, no matter if you're wiping, floors or providing for people in a nursing home, or if you're a white collar worker in a financial institution, that job should be enough to provide for your family, full stop. And that has gotten further and further away in Ohio. And both our state lawmakers and sometimes our national lawmakers have completely lost their way about that. And then wonder why we're so upset in Ohio. Well, I can tell you why. I mean, I'm pretty upset about it. I understand where that frustration lies. And, I think, Ohioans feel like, we had a bargain, right? We were going to work hard and then we would be able to provide for our families. And sadly, that is out of reach for too many people. And that's what's affecting our politics here.
Yeah. Hey, Nan, so here at Vote Common Good, we invite voters, we ask voters, particularly religious voters, white evangelicals and white Catholics, to use the common good as their voting criteria. We have been asking candidates for office to use the common good as their governing criteria should they be elected. And so we've got this group of candidates for common good who have kind of raised their hand and say, yeah, I'll do that. This is something that matters to me. I will be someone who's in this, not just for myself, but for the common good. And you're one of those candidates. And so I'm curious. Well, we're honored to have you. So I'm curious, why that's something that's important to you. Talk about, why you wanted to be a candidate for common good.
Right. So, my background is I was raised Catholic and actually went to an all-girls Catholic high school in Indiana. And that's where I think my religious foundation came in and was basically molded by the Franciscan nuns who are, I think probably safely more the liberal side of the Catholic faith. And they had this idea that was two ideas. Number one, that women pretty much should be able to do whatever they want to do, which is a strange place, coming from a Catholic doctrine that's what I learned from the Franciscan nuns who helped mold my leadership and shape me. And then secondly, I learned the 7 tenets of social justice, something the Catholic Church doesn't talk about much now. And those tenets are really important, around, treating people right, not being involved in a politics for personal gain, but for the good of the community, and for really being a public servant. And what does public service mean? It can mean, volunteering at your neighborhood. It can mean helping to pick up trash in the river. It could mean lobbying on behalf of children that don't have a voice. And it can mean running for office. And so that work is what has inspired and instructed my time and my leadership in both as mayor of Dayton and now running for governor. And so I'm really honored to have your all's endorsement, Common Good's endorsement, because I think that kind of conversation, particularly in the Christian faith, is really important as we work to bring people together and not set people apart, right?
Yeah.
And what we have in common for the good of humanity, regardless of what people believe, regardless of their beliefs, that there is a humanity of democracy that can really mold people together and build communities of trust and mutual respect. And so that I think is really important. That's why I'm so honored to have this endorsement. And thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. It's the honor is ours, really. So, we often talk with folks who are running for office the first time and, are, their heads are spinning at what it's really like. And we always kind of invite them, like, most of us, I mean, Doug and I have both run for office, but
and lost. Yeah. I mean,
look at now we're hosting a podcast because, apparently we weren't very good at it, but most people aren't going to do this. They're not going to run for office. And so we love to ask candidates to kind of, pull back the curtain a little bit and take people inside and talk about kind of what surprises them or what they didn't expect or what people would find kind of interesting or unusual about, just the reality of running for office as a human being. Now, you've run for office before in Dayton. Now you're running statewide. I'm curious, how is it different in terms of the scale and, how is it different running, a local race to running a statewide race, not from like the political machine kind of components of it, but just, from the human perspective, what's it like running statewide compared to running a local race?
Well, certainly the scale is 100 times bigger. Ohio is a really big state with probably 5 different regions. And I think the hardest thing that's different is, when you're running for mayor of Dayton, you can touch everybody, right? Or my husband and I could touch everybody. When I ran for mayor, my husband walked thousands of doors. And when we did a poll to see how we were doing, we asked, who you're going to vote for and then just why, because we didn't have a lot of money, just an open-ended question, why. And people actually texted and said in the poll, like, well, I met her husband, and I mean, he seems really great. So he must have married somebody awesome. So like that is not going to happen in a statewide race. My husband cannot, and I cannot get to every single place. And so certainly, the nature of getting to people in different ways, whether it's digital, podcast, on TV, is much more important in a statewide race. And so that scale. I'll tell you this, though, I always encourage candidates, regardless if they're running statewide or locally, to get off social media. Like, you have to have a social media presence, but don't read it. I don't read the comments. I'm sorry if folks have commented on them. I don't read them because it can be pretty vitriol in that work. Yeah. And what I find is when you go places, people are so gracious when they meet you face to face. And they're so grateful that you're real, and that they typically thank you for running for office. And I think we need to remember that there are still folks out there that believe in the democracy and might not even agree with you, but appreciate the fact that people are willing to put themselves out there. And so I always encourage candidates for local races or statewide races. Of course, you have to have a social media presence. That is not the real world. The real world is the one you walk to at the parade or at the picnic at Juneteenth or at the 4th of July festival. Those are real humans, and you can talk to them. And that's really important to hold on to when you're running for office, because it can be pretty tough. And, seeing real humans and getting real hugs, especially now that, we can manage COVID better. The hugs are really, really key, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Nan, saying,
let me pause you here for a minute. Are you saying you're exchanging hugs for votes? Is this a hugs for votes campaign that you have going on here?
For a vote or not, like, I'll hug I love hugs.
That's a good call. I think that's.
Well, Nan, you have a 9:30 appointment, so we need to let you go. But before we do, just one final question from me as a born and raised Ohioan who now lives in Arkansas. Browns or Bengals?
Bengals, buddy. I'm down in Dayton,
All right.
and I love Joe
Well,
Burrows. I love Joe
Good for you.
Burrows. From Plains, Athens, and also he stood up and talked about how we need to get gun violence figured out, which is a true profile. Someone that's pretty new to this, speaking his mind. Every time Joe Burrows talks, I'm like, man, I really like that guy. So, if the
all right,
Bengals
we're gonna have to.
aren't playing
At
the
least
Bengals,
at least we can agree on the Buckeyes, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely, all the way home.
Yeah. Thank you, Nan.
Thanks, Rob.
Congratulations,
Thanks,
Dan. We wish I could move to Ohio and vote for you.
I wish so too. If you find some Ohio friends, please tell them about me. Okay.
We'll do. We're doing that as best we can. Thanks so much, Dan.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
These candidates, just the best people.
Wow. Smart, sensible, just qualified.
Right there.
Oh, man.
Hugger.
And I mean,
hugger.
Yeah, hugger. I mean, that's awesome. We didn't get a chance to talk about with Nan because she had to go, and her communications director is texting me saying, "We got."
I was going to say, people should know that when you're like to these candidates, like, "Hey, I know you got a meeting, got to go," is not one of those, "Hey, I should let you go because we're tired of you." It's they have campaign managers that are like, "Okay, seriously, we're going to let this person come on your podcast. Don't talk about the weather for 7 minutes." Okay, she's got a thing at 9:30. We will not be dissuaded from weather chat.
Oh yeah. The one other thing I wanted to ask Nan about that we didn't have a chance to was that it's really a historic campaign. It's the first time in Ohio that 2 women have been at the top of the ticket as the nominees of their party for the 2 highest offices in the state. Nan's running mate is a lady named Cheryl Stevens, who is running for lieutenant governor, and the 2 of them together are, it would be the first time that, Ohio would elect a woman governor and a woman lieutenant governor. Very exciting stuff and really fantastic.
I even wonder nationally how often that's happened. We've not seen that with major candidates for president. I wonder if we've seen that for governor and lieutenant governor in any states. Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not sure. It's if it has happened, it's certainly been rare.
They haven't won that I know of. I don't think there's been a seated governor and lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, lots of other things, and I'm just having the craziest camera and screen day. Now all of a sudden I've gone blurry. Normally my background is blurry and I'm clear. All of a sudden it's just like, I'll tell you, this is just the longest day. I use that joke all day on June.
Does your wife enjoy that? Does she get tired of
Everyone enjoys it. No, everyone enjoys it, Rob. People enjoy a good longest day pun. It's just sort of the great moment.
So today we've got elections today. We've got elections,
yes.
Primary elections in Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, and Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., one of our candidates for Common Good, Reverend Wendy Hamilton, because we have 2 Reverend Wendy's as candidates for Common Good, is on the ballot. I don't know. Did you see, Doug, that
Keep talking,
Reverend Wendy?
My thing.
Don't mind me. Reverend Wendy. Yeah, it's all right. It's totally appropriate. But I was gonna. I don't know if you can hear me, Doug.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So I don't know. Did you see yesterday that Reverend Wendy Hamilton, because we have 2 Reverend Wendy's as candidates for Common Good, so I guess I need to qualify. Reverend Wendy in D.C. had her car vandalized. Not last night, but the night before. She came out and it was talking about a long day. It was a really rough experience. You probably saw the news about the 15-year-old boy that was shot and killed in D.C. by a police officer. He was one of Wendy's students. Remember, she works in the DC school system, and he was one of her students. And so she was kind of absorbing that and wrapping her brain around that. And she came out to her car, and bricks had been thrown through her back window, and there was a brick sitting on her windshield. And it was the only car on her street that was vandalized. She really felt like it it was targeted because it was her car. Nothing taken from inside, just vandalized, and so really kind of rattled yesterday. And but persevering
Well, this is one of
nonetheless.
and this is one of the things that you were seeing in a current spate of politics here. You can go back a year and a half to the January 6th violence, all the promised violence, the threats that are coming against people who are running for office. It's really something, and it's dangerous to a civic society like ours, where the battle at the ballot box is the place where we're supposed to deal with these issues, right? And when a political party or a candidate wins, you should take that very seriously. If you think they shouldn't win, you should organize and do your work and try to make sure that person's not reelected. That's what we have them for. But there's this other narrative that goes along with authoritarianism that's always been a part of the United States. Didn't used to get support at the highest levels that it does now from the former president and now from the Republican Party. There's really a narrative that says that violence is a reasonable solution for people in the course of what would be often called political discourse. And the fact that Republicans in their Republican charter tried to refer to January 6th as what was the phrase? Normal political discourse. Discourse or
normal or typical political discourse.
Yeah, like saying, "Oh no, that is what you do. That's this is how it goes."
Yeah.
So we're going to hear today on the hearings about people whose physical well-being and lives have been threatened. That is happening currently. People like Reverend Wendy running for office, having vandalism done to their car. It's hard to not suppose that it's related to the fact that she's a candidate seeking public office, even in a place like DC, which tends to lean particularly toward one political party. These kinds of things.
Or you've got a Missouri Senate candidate releasing a campaign video. Have you seen it, Doug?
Which one is it?
The rhino hunting.
Yeah, well, I saw a news story about it where he says, like, let's go hunting for, and rhino, for those who don't follow nerdy, stupid politics, colloquialisms.
Republican in name only.
Yeah, rhinos and dinos. This thing about there's pure Republicans, pure Democrats, pure progressives, pure conservatives, like that whole thing. Yeah, now this guy is apparently saying, trying to say, "Oh, I was just using a metaphor that our campaign is going to be hunting these people." Where's images of him with a rifle?
And troops knocking, like full combat gear troops knocking a door down and going it is there is a connect. So in our faith tradition, we have this to use a phrase. We have this phrase, this idea that words create worlds. You go all the way back to Genesis 1 and the creation poem there. God is speaking the world into existence, and it has this idea that words create worlds, that we in part the worlds that we inhabit are impacted, are formed by what we say about them, how we speak. That there is a direct connection between the world that we live in and our rhetoric. And it's not to say that, rhetoric causes everything, because it doesn't, but there is a connection between rhetoric, words, and the worlds in which we live. And what we're seeing is the acceptance of violence as a political tactic that has taken place. It's always been around. You're right about saying that, Doug, but reaching the highest levels in our government and being so normalized as it has, that it really is, my fear is that it is producing a climate in which violence becomes the only acceptable solution, the only possible solution. And ads like these, and this kind of stuff that we see throughout the country, um, is the type of thing that could have a really disastrous impact on the future of the country and the future of democracy.
Yeah, look, you are so right about that. One of the things that I have struggled with as a civic pacifist is that our own history in the United States is oriented around a violent revolution narrative. Now, I'm not wanting to relitigate whether the United States should have had a revolution against a British government that wouldn't allow for self-governance. What I'm saying is that is in our history. It's in our anthems, our national anthems, even though our national anthem was actually written about the War of 1812, but it's in there. So we have to recognize in the United States that we have chosen in our past to use violence in our own narrative, in the Civil War narrative, in taking lands from people, in incarcerating people, in being involved in wars around the world that are related to our political outcomes. We have used it and continue to use it. In fact, we prepare ourselves to use it and thank people for volunteering to be paid to be in a paid-for military to enforce with violence our political means around the world. Taking that into consideration, we shouldn't fool ourselves into thinking, wow, people aren't actually going to get violent. Like, it is, we are primed in this country to do this. So we have to work very hard and very intentionally in order to resist those impulses that are in us, as opposed to saying to ourselves, oh, that's not really in us. Only the craziest wackadoodles would do such a thing, which is why you brought up a few weeks ago that on the January 6th narrative, people were using 1776 language around it, right? Which is this one of the times when violence is acceptable of citizen on citizen? I would say is closer to, 1860, 1863 than it was to 1776, that it's a lost cause rebellion against the government. But even there, violence is used citizen upon citizen. So we had better just take very seriously the danger that exists in our society, because we have shown ourselves and have in our DNA this this bit.
Yeah.
Now, as a little side note, if Dan, can you put the text back up of that article? If you're only listening to this, you can't read it, like that Fletch joke, the movie Fletch. If this was at all legible, you'd see what I was talking about. It says, join the MAGA crew and get a rhino hunting permit. This wackadoodle candidate says there's no bagging limit, no tagging limit, and it doesn't expire until we save our country. So he's using hunting metaphors, and while there's guys in military outfits in the background of the picture. But look, if what's going on now is that the MAGA movement is fully disassociating itself from other kinds of Republicans, maybe that is the smallest little seed of hope, right? That finally it can be made clear for all of you people who vote Republican and see yourselves as Republicans and have a Republican identity. God bless you. You're not MAGA. Like, start to make that separation and stop giving these people, as a great speaker that I heard one time, stop giving these people the love offering of your vote. Stop giving it over to them, because it's they are trying a purity play on this.
Yeah.
And while I'm preachy here, progressives, watch the same thing. Stop this. Clear the deck of all the moderates. Clear the deck of all the Democrats who want to compromise. Like, that kind of extremism that exists across our system, it is not serving anybody well. It creates fanaticism, especially dangerous ones, when people with the most guns and the most bullets win. I actually heard a quote of Wayne LaPierre, the disgraced president of the National Rifle Association, say, you know what history teaches us? Those who have the most guns win. He said it to the NRA. It's terrifying. We should pull the clip up sometime for all this. It's really an incredibly dangerous and cynical view. So the reason a lot of the Second Amendment people believe what they believe is because they think that that's how you get political power. And I would say the people with the most votes win, that's how it ought to go, that should be a thing. It's clear that parts of the Republican Party and the MAGA movement especially does not agree with that at all. Yeah. It's where do the votes come from? Whose votes? What order did you count them in? The order you counted them in, not the number of them. So there is an anti votes win attitude, and it's being replaced with a whole lot of other things.
Yeah.
So we just have to be careful.
We've got all of this. We have the Supreme Court decisions looming. I mean, it's likely that today or tomorrow, Roe v. Wade will be overturned.
You think it's today or tomorrow?
Yeah, I actually thought it was going to be last week.
Yeah, I wondered that too. I wondered if that's why they had postponed the hearing last Wednesday, that they got scuttlebutt that was going to come out, because that's going to be a big competing story. And it's pretty clear that the Supreme Court doesn't care what else is going on, or possibly even know what else is going on in their choice.
They know. I mean, they have
some of their
spouses
might know.
They have a mole inside the Stop the Steal movement. They've got
Well, look, I have not coordinated my schedule with Shelley's schedule on many occasions. So if there's Supreme Court justices who have not coordinated their hostile takeover, their wife's hostile takeover of our democracy, schedule-wise, I could understand how that could possibly happen. You know, that you're a little surprised at a late night chat about the week schedule that, oh, hang on, is it on Tuesday that you're going to try to take away rights that have existed? Because that was the day I was going to try to, unrest our democracy.
I was bussing in hundreds, tens of thousands of people to storm the Capitol on Tuesday.
I was running a busing program for hostile insurrectionists.
Goodness.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Ginny Thomas, the wife of Clarence Thomas, is now become a key player in pressuring states and particular individuals in states to buy the Stop the Steal argument, and the fact that the former president of the United States wanted to tell people that he just needed to pick up. Today, what we're going to hear is we just needed to pick up 11,780 votes. Is that what it is? 11,780.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing today is,
you think that'll be his prison number? You think just for fun, they'll just at the federal level, they just grant him 11,780 as a prison number? There's a T-shirt. There's a meme. There's a meme. Yep. Trump in a prison garb, and the number is 11,780. That's all I need. That's all I need to be free from this. Okay, all that because the on front and center is Arizona and Georgia today, where they're going to have testimony from people saying this is what the Trump re-election campaign and
the Georgia Secretary of State, whom Trump called, and is now being investigated not just by the January 6th Commission, but by officials in Georgia as a violation of the law to pressure the Secretary of State over the phone to find these votes needed so he could win, is going to be testifying today. This feels like this could be fireworks kind of moment. And, so that's pretty exciting.
Now, I know we joked last week, and because you're on Truth Social and you follow Donald Trump's, postings, that Donald Trump had said in all caps, shouting, "I want equal time."
Yeah, demanding.
It has become more possible in my mind that this unhinged, former twice impeached loser in his re-election bid president will want to go sit in front of the committee and say things. I think he is just pacing around Mar-a-Lago, interrupting people's luncheons at the golf course unable to control himself. Do you think there's any, like, I think it went from there is absolutely no chance to, even the weather forecasters want to say, there's always a 1% chance that a storm could pop up.
Yeah.
I think it's somewhere in that 1 to 5% chance that Donald Trump might actually say, oh no, I'm coming in and I'm going to I'm going to litigate and do you think there's any chance?
I think there's a slim chance. I don't think it's likely. I've become more and more convinced that here's what I think is more likely.
Okay.
I think Donald Trump, before the committee hearings are over, before they've concluded, will announce that he is running for president in 2024 so that any recommendation, any conclusion, any upshot of the committee hearings can be dismissed as politically motivated. And so I think he will announce that he is running for president in 2024 sometime, depending on how long the committee takes to finish up, but before the committee is concluded.
This is like one of those prophecies that end up with a virgin birth story in the Gospels, where, like, before the young virgin has a child, such will be delivered to the nation of Israel, which is where the prophecy, that gets rooted into the Mary story comes from. It was a timing prophecy.
Yep.
You're giving us one of those timing prophecies here about when Donald Trump is going to announce. Okay, here's my theory on that. He's not going to run for re-election. He will have all the ability in the world to still claim all of this as political huntery, from no matter what, because he's a former president. So he gains nothing by being an active candidate versus being a former candidate. In fact, until the election happens, he's always hanging out there as a possibility. So I don't think he needs I don't think he picks up anything more. And here's why I think he's not going to run. There are other people who want to be president. DeSantis from Florida, Abbott from Texas, Chris Christie from a buffet somewhere. All of these people really want to be.
Yeah, you named two people that wouldn't have been on my short list. That's interesting.
Really want to run for president. That's what they're up to. That's what they're doing. Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo, a whole line of people who are like, this is my shot. There's no way that a president who has 50, 60% of the American population who says in a poll, I think he should be criminally prosecuted, has a chance of winning. So these people are going to be like, I'm not going to go soft gloves on Donald Trump. I think the calculation this guy's going to have to make is, does he want a slate of continuous Republicans doing what's happening during the committee hearings and have people out there saying Donald Trump didn't call in the National Guard, Donald Trump didn't reinforce the Capitol, he didn't do anything over those hours, he never acted. Look, a lot of these people, I want to make a TikTok video about this too, by the way. A lot of these people who support Trump, one of their big arguments is it was Antifa that attacked the Capitol, right?
Yeah.
Great argument. So let me ask you this. Antifa attacked the Capitol on January 6th crowd. Why didn't Donald Trump call in military response to protect the Capitol from Antifa? If you believe it was Antifa, then you also have to believe Donald Trump didn't do anything about it. So why didn't he protect the Capitol from the anti-fascist movement? So
excellent question.
Excellent question. So here's, I mean, is that just not ripe for a TikTok video? I mean, I could put a thing up behind me and I pop in the screen and say something stupid like that. Okay. So here's what I think Donald Trump's most afraid of. People like his daughter, people like Pompeo, people like Christie, DeSantis, Abbott, having to come out and say, I'm going to still run. And now the primary is not going to be about your failed steak business, your ties, your university, your bragging about physically assaulting women. Now, all of that, plus you didn't defend the Capitol against Antifa, or you didn't defend the Capitol against your own supporters. This is the worst possible thing for him, is to have that litigated by other Republicans in Republican primaries. That's why I think he has to make the calculation to not run, so that it never gets publicly litigated. Because if he's running in the primary, these guys have to talk about it 24/7. If he's not running, they will never talk about it. DeSantis, Christie, Pompeo, Pence, they won't talk. You'll ask them about January 6th, and they will say January 6th, 2019 was a great day. I vacationed in the Bahamas. Ted Cruz, who'll be running, will be saying, I was heading off to Cancun with my kids while my state was, under an ice storm. Like, they will not talk about January 6th, 2021. They're gonna have a mental block about it. So that's my theory. He's not running.
I like it.
And that's why, because he will do the calculation, and people are going to say to him, Mr. Failed President, Mr. Bad Golfer, Mr. Cheater, Mr. I lost re-election as sitting president. You don't want these people out there talking about this. I know you think you're going to just scare them out of the field. You really think DeSantis is going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to step back? You think he's burning down any sense of moral authority that he has to try to get your voters, and then is just going to say, okay, go ahead and lose the election to anyone that's running against you? So anyway, that's now I've been wrong about nearly every choice that Donald Trump makes, because he is an irrational character that makes bad choices.
That's what I was about to say, is that you and I both have been completely wrong about every prediction we've ever made about Donald Trump. And so it's very likely that, if you are a betting person, put money on he's going to announce after January, after the January 6th commission is done, because that's we've got the other things covered. So
yeah. Well, look, a lot going on. I wish, I prayed, look, Dr. Leroy Marvin, no, Dr. Leo Marvin, I've been baby stepping, from that fantastic What About Bob movie. I tried to do my work to not talk about Donald Trump for 2021, for 2022. I really wanted the man to slide away and slither, off the national stage, the rainmaker that he is. But that's just not the America that we live in. He's and partly because we haven't finished litigating this one yet.
Yes.
And whatever's going to come out as legal consequence for this, whether it's in Manhattan, which sounds like it's not going to happen, whether it's going to be in Georgia, whether it's going to be from the Justice Department. I've long said I don't think we can have a president in jail. I think it's just really bad. I don't know what we do about it to preserve the decorum beyond the individual's bad behavior. But boy, it's looking like somebody's got to, if crimes were committed in the Justice Department or the attorneys general in Georgia or in New York looks past it, just because it's political, it says something that's worse than what I think is a terrible thing, which is the former president's being imprisoned. This is why you don't elect people like Donald Trump, folks, because he ruins everything.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Not to be overly didactic about it, but
yeah. And we'll get a chance to hear all about it in a few hours when we reconvene to watch the hearings. Now, maybe folks haven't been watching the hearings with us. We did the first one just kind of for fun, like, hey, let's see how this goes. And I don't know, I enjoyed it so much that I was like, we got to do this again. And we're now down to we are watching every minute of the hearings, and and
here we go.
And Doug, you and I are bringing our Statler and Waldorf
Yeah, A game, real A game.
Yeah,
A lot of wows.
commentaries. We just wow.
With all the sensitivity of a golf commentator. Wow,
Yeah,
he's
and
walking
I
up
mean,
the-
where else could you get comments about the speaking style of retired judges, which I texted you some tweets from him. He's got a real good sense of humor about all of
that he said I don't let my speaking speed be faster than my brain speed, which is terrifying that was a federal appeals judge whose brain moves at that speed.
Oh, he was just cracking a joke.
I understand.
Yeah, but so invite folks to join us.
It just took a while for the joke to land. It was
just a full 9 seconds. You know how long 9 seconds of silence is?
It's longer than most stoplights. Most stoplights aren't red for 9 seconds, as it turns out. It's just we put a timer up. Remember? Just 7 to 9 seconds of pause before he would respond.
Oh, so
well, because when you have something that important to say, you just wait on it. You just wait on it like gold. All right. Well, we'll be back in 3 hours.
Join us on the YouTube channel to watch the hearings.
All right, Dan. Anything from you with your life fresh off of this producer Dan I'm speaking to off of your
No, it's
we got the fan running. I can hear the fan running in the background.
It's 100 degrees already, and I've got fans and tiny air conditioners, none of which will help.
No, that's all right. Everybody, they've got them running in their own houses and apartments, I'm sure.
It's going to be the longest day, though.
You're looking good with your tan, though, Dan.
I've been in Florida. It's not my favorite state, but we had fun anyways.
Yeah, it really is my favorite. I mean, it's among my favorites. I know people say things about Florida. I just love it. I think they make bad choices, but I love a lot of people that make bad choices. So, in fact, most people.
Yeah.
make bad choices. All right. Anybody else? Anything else, Rob? Dan?
No, I'm
Anybody?
good.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Randy. Thanks. There's some others. Mo. I lost some with my ridiculousness happening today. All right, so we'll be back, and then tomorrow talking with Brian McLaren, author, activist, turtle hunter,
Florida resident,
turtle raiser.
Really? Oh, I'm gonna have to hear about that.
Is razor a phrase you use? Like he doesn't have a turtle razor.
Is he a turtle farmer? Turtle rancher?
I don't know. Turtle rancher.
Herder?
He does have many a tortoise in his backyard. I mean, it's not like somebody's got a turtle. Our neighbor has a little painted turtle that the kids play with. No, this is a habitat. He's got a habitat of.
I think rancher's the way to go.
Tortoise
rancher.
Yeah, I like that.
Turtle rancher. Okay, that's going up on the screen on the bottom. Let's just put up different titles for Brian over the course of the interview that just say things like somebody will say
see
author,
if he notices. Yeah,
former pastor, kayaker, and then turtle rancher. All right. Okay, so lots of good things coming and going from the world of Common Good. So we will see you all tomorrow. If you're not watching this on YouTube, it's time to make the switch. If you're watching this on Twitter, it's time to cancel your account and just do something else with your life. Because come on, let's be clear, it's not helping any of us. All right, we'll see you down the road.
See you soon.
Bye.